Any announcements I have forgotten? Okay. All right, so let's get together on the Word of the Lord here. Y'all will remember last Sunday we began talking about, with it being Memorial Day, we wanted to talk about a mighty warrior of God. And so I searched the Scripture and I came across the passage again of Gideon, and how Gideon became a mighty warrior of God, and how that needs to be our goal in this Christian life, is to be a mighty warrior of God, and a mighty warrior for God. So we know that God chose a farmer named Gideon, okay? And God has a habit of using ranchers and herdsmen and farmers to do what he needs to get done, because God knows who he can count on. All right, so God chose this farmer, Gideon. The angel of the Lord came to him and said, "You mighty man of valor, God has chosen you to rescue the land of Israel from the Midianites." But Gideon had some questions. He had some doubts. He had some fear. And he said, "No, wait a minute, Mr. Angel of the Lord, you got this thing all messed up. See, we're farmers." And by the way, when he found Gideon, he was hiding at the wine press threshing wheat. And so he said, "You've got this thing all messed up. We're farmers and we're poor, and I'm the least of the poor." And then he began to question throughout chapter 6. He said, does God really even, is he for us? Because it appears like he's against us with all this bad stuff that's been going on. For 7 years they had been raided. They had grown their gardens, and the Midianites would come in at the harvest time and just ravage the land. And so Gideon was thinking, I don't know if God is really for us or not. And so he began to question God, and he said, does God really care about us? Does God really know what he's doing? And will God take care of me? And does God keep his promises? And so Gideon started asking all these questions. And throughout chapter 6, we find that God answered all of those questions with a resounding yes. So God has given Gideon some faith, and he's beginning to show some glimpses of faith. He's starting to show some promise, and now God is going to put Gideon's faith to the test. His fear was about to collide with his faith. So let's study together in Judges chapter 7 how God did indeed keep his promises that he had made to Gideon, and how God received the glory for what he was about to do. So Judges 7, starting verse 1. Then Jerubbaal, who is Gideon, and all the people that were with him rose up early, and they pitched beside the well of Harod, so that the host of the Midianites were on the north side of them by the hill of Moreh in the valley. And the Lord said unto Gideon, the people that are with thee are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, mine own hand has saved me. Now therefore, he said to Gideon, go to and proclaim to the ears of the people, saying, whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And the return of the people 22,000, and there remained 10,000. All right, so let me break that down for you right quick.
Yeah.
God comes to Gideon. Gideon's got 32,000 people in his army, and they all camped out down there at the spring of Harod, and they're down there camped out, and God come to him, he said, you've got too many people with you. If I turn you loose on the Midianites and you defeat them right now, the people are going to say, man, did you see what we did to that bunch? We whooped them like a bunch of dogs. And God said, we can't do it that way. There's way too many. So he said, I'll tell you what to do. You just tell them that if any of them are scared, or if they've got any, if they don't want to fight, if they want to go home, let them go. And I'll be doggone if 22,000 of them didn't walk. They left. So there was Gideon. He had 32,000, and now he's standing there with 10,000. And they have left. God is about to test his faith. God will test our faith, okay? I didn't say God will tempt us. I said God will test our faith. Just when we start to show a glimpse of faith, God's going to test it. A story comes to mind of a preacher. His name was Mark Roberts. And he had this lady, Miss Youngston. She would come to him and she would tell him, she'd say, Pastor Mark, I'm just really concerned because every time I come to church, Joe tells me he's going to kill me if I keep coming down here to church. Yes, my child, Mr. Mark would say. And he had heard this over and over and over. And she would come to him and say, Joe's going to kill me. He said, you have got to have some faith. God is going to take care of you. She said, oh yes, he has always taken care of him, but now, and Mark said, now what? She said, well, now Joe is telling me if I keep coming to your church, he's going to kill you. And Mark said, maybe it's time for us to talk about that little church across town. Okay? See, the pastor, he had heard this over and over and over, and he was telling her to have faith and to be strong, that God was going to take care of her. When the tables turned, and he was involved, and God tested his faith, he was like, maybe we should talk about that in the church across town. But God will test our faith, and he'll do that for two reasons. One, to show us, is our faith real, or is it not?
Amen.
Is our faith real, or is it not? Okay? I heard one fellow say that a faith that can't be tested is a faith that can't be trusted. It's kind of like having a toothbrush. Everybody should have a toothbrush. If y'all got one, raise your hand. Okay, so everybody should have a toothbrush, and you should use it often. If you didn't raise your hand, see me after church.
I give you one.
Actually, don't. See Brother Greg. So, we should all have a toothbrush. We should use it regularly. It's good to do that, but it's not good to use somebody else's.
That's right.
And what I'm saying is we cannot be successful in our lives, in our Christian lives, if we're riding on the faith of somebody else. Just like you can't be real successful if you're riding on somebody else's toothbrush. Okay? So God is going to test our faith, and we have to figure out if it's real, because the faith that can't be tested can't be trusted. Okay? Now, God tested Gideon's faith by reducing the size of his army. From 32,000, he would eventually get it down to 300 men. What that means is that less than 1% of the people he started out with was left there to fight with him. Okay? So the second thing God had to do is he had to strengthen the faith that Gideon had for the task that he had set before him. Okay? If Gideon's faith was based upon the size of his army, how was his faith going to be at the end of this deal? When it went from 32,000 to 300,
That's right.
and his faith was based upon numbers, how strong was his faith going to be at the end? It wasn't going to be too good. Okay? So we got to watch where we put our trust. The Midianites, you have to remember, they had 135,000 people, and the Bible describes the amount of camels they had like grasshoppers. They had more stuff to fight with than the Israelites could even fathom. Okay? So just imagine, put yourself in Gideon's shoes. What if you were Gideon and 99% of the people you had on your side were gone? How strong would your faith be? How strong would your faith be when you started to go into battle? But God explained to Gideon why it had to be this way. He said, Gideon, we can't let the people go in there with great big numbers. We can't let 32,000 of them come crawling in here and whip up on the Midianites and put them on the run, because they'll say, look at what we did. Look how strong we are. Okay, a lot of times we run across people who have great wealth. All right? And we find that a lot of times people with great wealth don't see a need for God because they have figured out that they've done pretty well on their own. Why would they need God? And it was the same way with the great amount of numbers. God said, we can't let our faith be based upon a great amount of numbers, because they will say, hey, it's because we were strong. You see, victory that comes by faith is a victory that cannot be explained by any other way than by saying, God did it.
Amen.
Okay? So I look at Miss Marie. I look at Miss Joel. I look at Miss Joe. I look at Rob. Okay? I look at our church and our homes. How do these people survive cancer? How does this church grow? How is my family and my home being blessed? Why does God do the things for me He does, when it can't be explained by no other way except to say, God had to do it?
That's right.
That is faith and victory through faith. And so God was telling Gideon, look, when you win this thing, it's got to be because I did it for you. It can't be because of numbers, how big your army was, and how mighty you were. It has to be because I did it for you. So in telling the fearful soldiers to go home, Gideon was actually just following the law that Moses had previously given in Deuteronomy 20, verse 8, when he had told them, hey, if you're fearful and you don't want to fight, go home. And why did the fearful soldiers need to go home? Fear is like having a cold. How many of you like to have a cold?
Nope.
Anybody in here got one?
It's contagious.
Right? Okay, we start running. If there was one in here amongst us had the cold, it just spreads like wildfire. And fear does the same thing. And so God told Gideon, He said, get the fearful ones out of here, because one fearful soldier will do more danger than a whole host of enemy soldiers coming into your camp. And you have got to get rid of those that are fearful. Okay? You see, fear and faith can't stay together in the same heart very long, because either fear will defeat faith and we'll quit, or faith will defeat fear
Yes.
and we will have the victory. So how many of you, and you don't have to raise your hands, how many of you remember the day that Jesus saved you from your sins? And you realize for once and for sudden, oh, I'm going to live in heaven when this thing is over. That is my assurance of heaven, that Jesus loved me so much that He died for me. And where was your faith on that day? Your faith was strong. And then you go home, and you go to work, and you got family members who don't believe like you do, and the bills come due, and things get tough, and somebody gets sick, and fear starts driving you away from God, and it starts pushing you further away from your faith. Where are you today in your Christian life? Has faith overcome your fear, and are you living victoriously, or have you allowed fear to conquer your faith, and are you on the run? Are you scared? Are you ready to quit? Our faith and our fear can't live together. Faith must overcome.
Amen.
So Gideon told the fearful soldiers, he said, look, if you don't want to fight, go home. 22,000 of them jumped up and they're gone. Okay? I don't think that's quite the way he had it pictured. I thought he was probably thinking, there might be 5 or 10 of them get out of here, but he didn't think 22,000 of them would leave, and the bunch was gone. Okay? How strong do you think Gideon's faith is now? But God ain't done yet. Okay, let's see what else happens. Okay, verse 4. But the Lord said to Gideon, the people are still too many. Bring them down to the water. I will test them for you there. Then it will be that of whom I say to you, this one shall go with you, the same shall go with you. And of whomsoever I say to you, this one shall not go with you, then the same shall not go. So he brought the people down to the water, and the Lord said to Gideon, everyone who laps from the water with his tongue as a dog laps, you shall set apart by himself. Likewise, everyone who gets down on the knees to drink. And the number of those who lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, was 300 men. But all the rest of the people got down on their knees to drink water. Then the Lord said to Gideon, by the 300 men who lapped, I will save you and deliver the Midianites into your hand. Let all the other people go, every man into his place. So the people took provisions and their trumpets in their hands, and he sent away all the rest of Israel, every man to his tent, and retained those 300 men. Now the camp of Midian was below him in the valley. God has done and went and reduced his army from 32,000 to 10,000. All right, 22,000 of them walked off, and now God gets rid of 9,700 more. 9,700 more soldiers just walked off. Okay. Now, if I was Gideon, and I know y'all probably ain't like me, but if I was Gideon, I'd be saying, God, what are you doing? I'd be there, man. I wouldn't understand. Okay, how many of us does that happen to us daily in our Christian walk? Lord, I don't get it. What are you doing? And he just lost nearly every soldier he had. All right, it's hay season, right? Let's get this down where we can understand it. All right, you got 300-400 square bales laying in the field. 10 of your buddies come over, dude, I'm going to help you put that hay in the barn. Awesome. Well, if there's any of you got any doubts about it, if you think it's going to be too hot or it's going to be too hard for you, don't worry about it. I can handle it. And 8 of them get up and now it's you and 2 more. All right? And then you say, hey, you boys come down here to the creek, let's get us a drink. And one of them gets down there and he gets him a dip of water and drinks it out of his hand like that. And the other one gets down on his hands and knees, and he puts his head way down there and drinks the water, okay? Well, you tell that, and it just got down on his hands and knees. Brother, I don't think you're going to make it to the hayfield. You better go into the house. Now it's you and 1 more. And you got 300 or 400 square bales of hay looking at you. Okay? That's what just happened to Gideon. He had 32,000 people ready to fight. And God said, send a bunch of them home. You only need 300. Okay? Gideon felt just like we would feel in the hayfield if we lost all of our help. Okay? Now, think about this for just a second, though. I'm getting ahead of myself. Moses said, Deuteronomy 32, verse 30, Moses assured the Israelites that if they would obey the Lord, 1 soldier could chase 1,000 enemies, and 2 would put 10,000 on the run. So if you do the math, and I'll explain this to you afterward if you need to. If you do the math, what that really means is Gideon only needed 27 soldiers to defeat 135,000, based upon the math of God. He only needed 27. Ain't it awesome that in Gideon's life and in our lives, God left him so much more than he needed? Okay? He gave him more than 10 times what he needed to defeat that army. We look at God's math sometimes, we think this ain't enough. And God's like checking his math problem. He's like, you're right, that is way too much. Okay? How many of us could raise a hand and say we have got way too much? And I don't deserve it. But anyway, according to God's math, Gideon only needed 27 men. He had 300. What was he complaining about? God's given Gideon one more promise, though. In verse 7, the Bible says, and the Lord said unto Gideon, by the 300 men that lapped the water, they cupped it and drunk it from their mouth, from their hand. I will save you and deliver the Midianites into your hand, and let all the other people go, every man to his own place. The soldiers who left, they were nice enough to leave their stuff. Okay? They left some of their equipment so that they'd have something to fight with. Okay? So they left their torches and their trumpets and what the Bible calls a pitcher, we would know it more as a jar. And they left. Don't that sound like some real equipment to go into battle with? You get ready to fight 135,000 men. They're hungry. They're mad. They got a bunch of camels, and you've got a trumpet, a torch, and a jar. That sounds like a game show, does it not? Okay, but God said, we're going to take care of this. I'm going to show you how this thing's going to work. Y'all just stick around. Okay? So God had tested Gideon's faith. He had reduced his numbers way down to where I think Gideon's starting to see, I can't depend upon the numbers of my men. I'm going to depend upon my God. Okay? Amen. So God's tested his faith now. God encourages the faith of Gideon. You see, God intended for Gideon to attack the Midianites that night, but Gideon still had fear in his heart. Okay? You and I may be saved by the blood of Christ. Okay? He was crucified and his blood was shed to wash our sins away, and we may be saved and we can run up and down the street and proclaim it, but every now and then we got fear in our heart, and Gideon had fear in his heart. Okay? God had already told Gideon 3 times, I will give you the victory. God had already shown Gideon 3 signs. The fire from the rock, the wet fleece, the dry fleece. Y'all remember the fleece game, right? We played that last week. He had done, showed him signs, given him promises. He said, you're going to be victorious. But Gideon still had fear. So what did Gideon do? I mean, what did God do? Did he just take Gideon and sling him aside? He just give up on him and toss him over the edge? No. Let me tell you what God did do. He treated Gideon like dirt. And I'm glad he treats me and you like dirt sometimes. You see, sometimes God tries to explain a plan to us and we don't get it. We're like, God. And he's like, oh, that's right, y'all made from dirt. Let me give you another sign. Okay? And so when Gideon still had fear in his heart, God treated him like dirt. He said, let me explain this to you one more time. Verse 13, in verse 9, God told Gideon, he said, I have delivered the Midianites in your hand. Verse 13, God gave him another sign. Gideon had faith, but he needed some encouragement. God was about to give him the encouragement he needed. God was about to tell him the battle must be fought, but the victory is won. Okay, God done told him, you're going to win, brother. It's yours. The victory is won, but the battle must still be fought. Verse 9. That night the Lord said, get up. He told Gideon, get up, go down to the Midianite camp, for I have given you victory over them. But if you are afraid to attack, if you got fear in your heart, go down to the camp with your servant Purah. Listen to what the Midianites are saying, and you will be greatly encouraged. Then you will be eager to attack. So Gideon took Purah and went down to the edge of the enemy camp. The armies of Midian, the Amalek, and all the people of the east had settled in the valley like a swarm of locusts. Their camels were like grains of sand on the seashore, too many to count. Gideon crept up just as a man was telling his companion about a dream. The man said, I had this dream, and in my dream a loaf of barley bread came tumbling down into the Midianite camp. It hit a tent and it turned it over so that it lay flat.
Amen.
His companion answered and said, well, your dream can mean only one thing. God has given Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite, victory over Midian and all its allies. And when Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he bowed to worship before the Lord. God tested Gideon's faith. He took away his great numbers and brought it down to where Gideon realized, I've got to depend upon my God. And then he had fear in his heart, so God encouraged him through his faith. And God did that because he said, look, I have given the Midianites in your hand. But if that's not enough, if you're still afraid to attack, I want you to take your servant and go down there. And when you go down there in amongst the camp and you sneak up on them, you're going to hear something that's going to make you happy. And so Gideon gets his servant, and they go down there, and they sneak up on the Midian army. And they hear this guy. He said, dude, I had a dream last night. I dreamed that a barley loaf of bread rolled in this place and hit one of the tents and knocked it over flat. And the guy next to him must have been one of them smart fellers, one of them philosophers or something. He said, you know what that means? That means that God, the God of Joash, father of Gideon, that means that he has given all of this army into his hands. And the Bible said that Gideon was so happy, so encouraged by God, that he bowed down to worship before he did anything else. Okay? God will test our faith sometimes. When we get fearful, God will encourage our faith. Okay? And he encouraged his faith. And Gideon, you think about what that soldier said. In those days, barley was the cheap stuff. Okay? If you was poor and you couldn't afford to buy the real good stuff to buy bread with, you bought barley. And they had made an old stale loaf of bread based upon what this soldier was saying. And this old stale, worthless piece of bread come rolling in there and knocked the tent down. And what he was saying is them Israelites, they're poor, they're worthless, they can't do nothing right. He was belittling them. But Gideon didn't worry about that. When he heard the interpretation of the dream, he paused to worship God before he did anything else.
That's right.
Okay? Now, if you'll remember last week, we did talk about the fact that Gideon was going to be a mighty warrior of God. And we said that should be our desire as well. But Gideon ain't there yet. He's close. We've been talking about Gideon we've been talking to him for a long time, right? We've been talking about Gideon. And we ain't seen him fight nothing yet. So we don't know if he's a mighty man of God or not. Is he a mighty warrior? He ain't there yet. But he's getting closer. And I say that because I say this. Before we can be successful warriors for God, we have to be sincere worshipers of God.
Amen.
Okay? You see, Gideon went down there and he heard the dream interpreted. And before he did anything else, he bowed to worship his God.
Amen.
Before God will turn you loose to fight hell, you got to learn how to worship him sincerely. Okay? So God tested his faith. He encouraged him through his faith. God's about to honor his faith. Let's see how this turns out. Okay? Now, faith means more than just simply trusting God. Okay? It doesn't mean that. And how many times do we mess this one up? And I do. How many times do we have faith in God just because we expect him to do something for us? Okay? Well, I trust in God. Why ain't he putting more money in my bank account? I trust in God. Why ain't all of my cows having calves? I trust in God. Why did it rain on my hay? Okay? But that ain't the way it works. You see, we have faith in God, not so he'll do something for us, but because it makes his heart joyful. Because it allows him to know that we love him and that we want to please him. Okay? I love my mom and daddy. And they've worked me hard through the years. But one of the most important things I will ever do in my life is try to please my mom and daddy because I love them so much. And I always want them to be proud of me. And I'm going to fall short. But our Heavenly Father is the same way. He wants to be proud of his children. We should strive to please him in everything we do. That's why we should have faith. Not because we want him to give us something, but because we want to please him. Okay? So how did God reward Gideon's faith? God gave Gideon wisdom to prepare his army. Okay? So Gideon was a new man when he got back to camp. Okay, we're talking about the fearful Gideon, the one who questioned God, asked God if he knew what he was doing. He was afraid. Well, Gideon goes there and hears the dream. He hears what God has said. He goes back to the camp. He said, boys, them days of fearful and wondering and asking questions, that stuff is over. Today is a new day. Okay? And he said, today, I need y'all to follow me. I'm going to be an example to you. I'm not asking God any more questions. I'm not asking questions of him. I'm not asking him for any more signs. I'm ready to be his leader. I'm ready to take you and let's defeat this place. Okay? So he returned to the camp and he said, arise, for the Lord has given the camp of Midian into our hands. He divided the 300 men into 3 companies. He put trumpets and empty pitchers in the hands of all of them with torches inside the pitchers. And he said, look at me and do likewise. And behold, when I and those who were with me blow the trumpet, then you also blow the trumpets all around the camp and say for the Lord and for Gideon. Okay? Gideon God had honored his faith. He kept showing glimpses of faith. God kept working on him. He tested him. He encouraged him. And now he's going to honor his faith. Gideon goes to camp and he said, boys, we ain't doubting God no more. We've had enough of that. He wants us to battle. It's time to battle. Y'all get your stuff and you follow me and you do as God has directed me to do. Amen. And he split them up and they surrounded the camp. Verses 19 through 22 go on to show us that Gideon and the 300 men, they surrounded the camp at dark. And they went in there, and Gideon blew the trumpet, and they broke the glass of those jars, and God came in there, and he just filled that camp full of confusion, and then people didn't know what to do, and they started fighting amongst one another. They killed one another, and they figured out the best thing we can do is run, and they took off running. And Gideon, with 300 people, put 135,000 of them and a bunch of camels on the fly. By the faith of God.
Amen.
God intervened. He took a guy that, how many of us was like Gideon? God found us when he's down and out, we was hiding in the wine press, threshing wheat, trying to figure out what in the world are we doing here and why has God messed my life up so bad? And God come to Gideon and he said, I'm going to turn this thing around. Okay? The victory that Gideon won that night brought peace to the land for over 40 years. What does the victory mean to us? What can we learn from the trials and the doubts and the questions that Gideon had, and what can we learn from Gideon's faith? Okay? First of all, God doesn't need large numbers to accomplish his purposes.
That's right.
All right? So what that means is they don't have to be 400 of us in here for God to do what he needs to do. It also means they don't have to be thousands of dollars in our bank accounts for us to do what God has intended for us to do. Okay? God ain't based upon the big numbers, and our faith should not be either. God doesn't need especially gifted leaders. God will enable the available.
Amen.
Let me start that one more time. God will enable the available. If you make yourself available to him, he will enable you to do what he wants you to do. You don't have to be especially gifted. Look at me. Okay? I don't have to be... All right? You don't have to be gifted to do what God wants you to do. We must be available for God to use just as he sees fit. We may not fully understand his plans, but we can fully trust his promises. It is faith in God that gives us the victory. If we will show a little faith, God will test it, he'll encourage it, and then he will honor it. Okay?
Amen.
And why would God do that? Let's step back to last week and close it this way. Why would God test our faith and encourage our faith and honor our faith and use us to be who he wants us to be? One, because God cares for us.
Amen.
Okay? He cares for us. If you ever wonder, does God really care about me? He does. Does God know what he's doing? Absolutely he does. Okay? God knows what he's doing. Will God take care of each one of us? He will. Okay? An example, I'm going to pick on Miss Tina. Okay? Miss Tina comes to me last Sunday. She said, we had that big rainstorm last Saturday night. She was up all night and still made it to church, bless your heart. She was up all night keeping water out of the floor because it was blowing in her house right above the kitchen window. She comes in here Sunday morning. She's like, I don't know what's going on, but there's water pouring in my house. She said, do you know anybody can fix it? I said, I don't. But I said, I ain't never run across nothing Gary Grassman couldn't fix. So I put Gary with her, and Gary goes up there and he looks at it and he finds two or three things that'll fix the problem. He jumps right in there on that. Now, she didn't have the money to go pay no roofer to come up there and fix her house on Sunday. But you had Gary Grassman, because that's who God put in. And God was available, and God enabled him, and he just went over there and took care of what needs to be done. God will take care of you, and God knows what he's doing. Okay? You could have stayed at home. You could have stayed at home. I'm tired. I've been up all night. There ain't no sense in me going to church. God don't love me anyway. Look at the water pouring in my house. But God knows what he's doing. He sent you down here, and he put you with somebody to take care of your problem. Okay? And the last thing, God keeps his promises. God told Gideon time after time after time after time, I have given you the Midianite army. They're in your hand. The victory is yours. You got to go get it. After sign after sign. 4 times he told him the victory is yours. 4 times he showed him a sign that said the victory is yours. And Gideon went down in there with 300 people, put that 135,000 on the run because God keeps his promises.
Amen.
If you're here this morning and you just don't know, man, I don't know if God really cares for me. My faith is weak. I need my faith to be tested. I need my faith to be encouraged. I need God to honor what little bit of faith I got. I need God to keep His promises. I need Him to take care of me. That's where you are this morning. All of that starts with accepting Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. Okay? Accepting Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, you know what that does? It makes us a child of His. A child of the King. And God wants to be pleased with His children. He wants to help His children. He wants to take care of His children. The Bible said He will never leave us nor forsake us. Okay? God will take care of you and He will keep His promises. So if you're here this morning, you've never accepted Christ as Savior, let me give you an opportunity to do that as we close in prayer. Okay, let's pray. Amen. Heavenly Father, God, we come to you this morning. God, we're so blessed. God, thank you for the mules when they pray, and the jacks when they bray.
Yes.
God, we just come to you. We thank you for this service. Thank you for your word. God, there may be one here this morning. They just aren't sure. God, they're not absolutely sure that they've accepted Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior of their life. But God, that one or two or three people, wherever they are, they want to know this morning. They want to be sure. And Father, they're going to pray this prayer with me now, silently, there, wherever they are. God, I am a sinner, and I have messed some stuff up, and I am sorry. But God, I believe what the Bible says. I believe that you love me so much that you gave your Son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross for me, and His blood was shed to wash my sins away. God, I ask you to forgive me. I repent of my sins. Jesus, I ask you to save me. Save me, Jesus. I confess with my mouth and my heart, Jesus Christ is Lord. Father, if there be that one or two or three out there this morning, don't let them leave here the same way they come in. God, I want to help them. I want to talk to them. I want to turn them on to a new life in Jesus. But God, the last 2 weeks we've studied about sometimes we got questions, and God, sometimes our faith is weak, and you have shown us through the passage concerning Gideon that you're never going to fail us. You care about us. You're going to keep your promises. You're going to test our faith. You will encourage our faith, and then you will honor our faith. So God, we thank you in advance for that. Help us, strengthen us. God, love us and direct us in the way you'd have us to go. Make us available to you, God, and enable us to do what you'd have us to do. We love you, and we thank you. In Christ's name we pray.